Hotep family. How you doing? It's Onitaset Kumat. Obviously, if you don't know who I am, I'm the author of the Book of Power, and of course, you can read it free. The preview for free on my Discord. Uh, Today, I want to talk to you about something that's pretty interesting, which is this idea of incremental growth as a secret to personal wealth, right? And part of the inspiration is that, well, one, I kind of wasted a little bit of time listening to, a lot of these, you know, self-help, blah 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 blah. It was interesting, uh, and I mean, I think it's a waste of time, but it's, but there's more to this world. And I want to let you know that technically, yes, incremental growth can personally make you wealthy. Okay? Can personally make you wealthy if you just apply really simple principles with low expectations over amounts of time. And this is kind of speaks to one of the issues with us as a people. Uh, and essentially how little we kind of take advantage of essentially situations that are so monitored against us. And I'll try to illustrate this by going over to my Discord uh, and showing you a little conversation that was had. Let's see, is this the screen's not showing, so I'm gonna here. I'm going to switch to here. This was in lighthearted banter. So in lighthearted banter, what we had was this little conversation where it says somebody says good morning. I showed a tweet. It says good morning. The term financial literacy is a gimmick by capitalists to frame poverty as a failure of the individual illiterate rather than as the planned outcome of a social order that requires a class of desperate laborers paid only enough to survive their physical prime, right? And this is a nice little, it's a nice little, haha, these people are so evil. And sure, you can say they're evil, but what it does is that it confuses a lot of the discussion. And I kind of, you know, I know a lot of people would prefer if, I was pro-leftist or pro or anti-capitalist, and I'm not saying I'm not either of those two, but this kind of illustrates how we kind of go about life with imagination or with huge generalizations instead of reality and just realizing that there are personal circumstances. That there's real life and then there's like imaginary generalizations, and that kind of changes everything. Now, of course, if you want to engage on the Discord, if you want to have this conversation with me live, you can just click the link below. But I would advise first that you kind of listen, see what's going on, so that you don't necessarily interrupt the flow of things, right? But here we go. It says, I say, remind me of something I heard a Marxist say on how white folk pay you only enough to come to work tomorrow. This tweet isn't true, but it's along the same lines. And of course, Brother Aframac says financial literacy has no impact on class mobility. And, he says black people on average have higher per capita financial literacy rates than whites, yet black people have less wealth and disposable income than whites. Wealth in capital is about who descends from the greatest killer, that's all, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's true and false, right? If you follow someone else's program, you won't likely pass them unless they want you to. And that's really like the situation that our people find ourselves in. Now this person says, I watched this video on wealth inequality. It was an interesting video, but I want you guys to realize that if you follow someone else's program, you won't likely pass them unless they want you to. You're not going to necessarily pass the CEO of a corporation unless the CEO of the corporation wants you to pass them. All right? And because of that, that's not necessarily going to illustrate whether or not quote unquote financial literacy, which I said is a bad term, right? I think I said it's a bad term. Wait, let me see. Oh yeah, put in. I said financial literacy has never lifted a group of people. Oh yeah. So Aframac, we continue. He says financial literacy has never lifted a group out of poverty. I said this is a historical fact. That's a historical fact, and I said yeah, it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to lift a group. So he says getting out of poverty takes organizational power. Anything less is for birds. I said yeah, but that would be collective financial literacy. I mean, financial literacy is a misnomer. And he's like revolutionary anti-establishment. So on. Like, but the idea is, even non-rich people can become rich. It's not likely but it's possible. This is really what I want to talk about. This idea of non-rich people becoming rich, right? So if you're not rich, you can become rich. You know, it's likely. It's not likely. I mean, it is likely if you have some sort of discipline, but it's very possible. Particularly like if you avail yourself of speculation, right? So capitalism is designed to have a tiny minority of rich people and a supermajority of struggling people, right? And it's like, yeah, I talk about, Amos, obviously, because, it's me and Afromac. If you don't know, Afromac and I already discussed Amos Wilson. And I go on, I say, yeah, struggling workers can become rich people, though rarely, and so on and so forth. So I want to explain to you about incremental growth, just so that we can all be on the same page as to what this is. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys something that's pretty interesting, and that is one of the devices that everybody should have in their personal life, right? It's something that you should have. I would almost say that you were born with it, right? But I mean, this is actually a little bit on the complicated side, so you might not necessarily have been born with it. But let's see if I can pull it up for you. I don't know if you hear that. I'm getting some errors because this thing won't add this new window I'm trying to do. Let's see. Alright, create new. Name is already in use. Let's see. Oh, okay, that's my mistake. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is like this. Okay, boom. There you have it. So this is what I want to show you, and it's called a calculator. Okay. Here's what I would say is the basis for you getting that incremental growth, and that is if you just look at this. If you just say to yourself, what if I can increase my like here's one of the first rules I want to say is this, that when they say that it takes money to make money, that is facts. Okay. Particularly if you're looking for incremental growth, that is that you have to put in something and then try to get a return on that something. All right. Now I want to break down something really important to you. So earlier when I was on Twitter, there was a discussion on bitcoins. Bitcoins shot up in value recently. So when I bought it, it was worth $10,000. It shot up like around the American election to like $19,000, right? So so whatever I put in at 10,000, right? Although I got it a little later, I might have got it at 11,000, but whatever I put in at 10,000, let's say if I put it in let's say I put it in 9,500, okay? Whatever I put in at 9,500 doubled at when I took it out in November, right? So it doesn't matter what I started with. If I started off with $10, I got $20. No, I got a $10 profit. I got the same that I put in for free, pretty much. Okay, I mean it was like maybe a $5 exchange charge, right? But otherwise it's like free, especially since I didn't just put in $10, right? It doesn't matter how much money you put in either. It just comes out that way. Now, I don't like that kind of long-term trade. Some people would recommend that you do that long-term trade because they're saying, you know what, eventually Bitcoin's going to be worth, like, let's say $150,000. So whatever you put in, and that's an estimation, so whatever. But the point is that if you buy it now at 20,000 and it shoots up to 150,000, whatever it is that you, let's say if you buy it now at 15,000, let's simplify it, and it shoots up to 150,000, right? Then whatever it is that you put in is going to multiply by 10, or particularly if, it's going to multiply by 10, and then obviously when you pull it out, it's going to be, you're going to have this, you still have to consider that you put in already 15,000, so it's not like you're going to get the full, you're going to get 9 times as much as you put in, right? That's fine. That's a way to go about things. I don't recommend that way, even though it's a good way to multiply whatever you put in. What I'm going to recommend to you, and this is where the calculator's out, is I'm going to recommend to you 1.01%, right? A 1% gain. And this is what I want to say. I think we should probably look at this whole Discord conversation. I kind of turned it off because I know that I might have said some stuff that people don't like. But I'm going to see if maybe it's possible, because I feel like I might have said something more in here. So it says, capitalism is designed to have a tiny minority. Yes, the usage of capital in the organization. Oh, yeah, I say, but also struggling workers can become rich. Though really, Brother Aftermath cites Lenin. He says, the usage of capital forms in an organizational strategy is not indicative of a capitalist position. I'm like, this your man, Amos, an evolutionary, blah, blah, blah. He's like, most quantum psychologists. We're just joking, teasing. See the emoticon. The moderns are, oh yeah, I think we start talking about modern people, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so maybe there wasn't, yeah, maybe we got a little off subject. Yeah, we got a little off subject. So, but so I'll turn back to this calculator then. So the reason why I want you to look at this calculator is, if you go about thinking about incremental growth, right? And that is this idea that if I just increase by 1% either every day or every instance, right? And the thing is, this is kind of simple. Now, I don't have the charts up for you. Maybe I can pull up a chart for you of like what coins look like, what like how the BT. Let me see if I could BTC market maybe. I don't know the websites. I think it would require you to look into it yourself, right? I want you to look into it yourself. If you look at like any of these stock exchanges things or whatever. All right, but let me see if I can. I'll try to pull this up for you. I really shouldn't, but I'll try to. So I just searched up BTC something, blah 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 blah, right? And it kind of shows you how the chart looks, right? Here's the most important thing I want you to pay attention to, though. I want you to pay attention to this change, this change, this change, and this change. How it goes down 6%, goes up 1%, goes up 3%, goes down 6%. Now, at one point, one of the first stocks I traded, I kind of saw that it was surging upward, and it was like a 10% gain, And so I put in a little bit of cash, and I got like 10%, and then I just didn't do that again because it wasn't really something that was meaningful. Now, but here's the thing: if you can, and it's not that you can, it's not that you could 100% predict changes in the changes in the market and the market fluctuations. But if you can predict, if you can reasonably engage the market at 1% gains, if you go in for 1% gains reasonably at every instance. Wait, did Bitcoin go to 24,000? Dang, I didn't even know that. All right, wait, hold on a second. Let me check that thing out. Dang, it surged up again. Somebody. That's what I'm saying. You can't even predict. That means that, and the reason why I say that is because like I said, I'm not even in it. Is it 24? No, it's not at 24. It's at 18. But yeah. So obviously you gotta just make sure you use the right websites. But the reason why I say this is that you want to be able to reasonably, now there are tools to reasonably predict the momentum of a stock or here anything, like whether it's allegedly forex or these bitcoins, this cryptocurrency, whatever it is that this is Australia, whatever it is that you want to do or predict, you can. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't show you guys this page. Hold on a second. So let's go. Whatever it is that you want to use, you can use, and the main word I'd look up for you is stochastics. So you want to figure out and try to understand what is known as stochastics. I'm gonna type it in the chat, right? But you want to do your research on these variable, on how to read charts, where to get these charts, all that kind of stuff. When you do your research and all that, then if you can reasonably predict a 1% gain, And the reason why I showed you that other chart was because, you know, every day these things are going up by 1, 2, 3%, or going down by 1, 2, 3%, or 6%, so on and so forth. But if you can reasonably, if you can risk it, and of course it's risky. Now, it's not risky in the sense of we're not going to go down to negative 100%, but you might go down 10%. You might go down whatever, right? But if you can reasonably look into a 1% gain, right? Then here's the thing I want you to understand. This is going to be math, right? You have to ask yourself this. Here's what you ask yourself. All right? How do I solve for the problem of 2 to the x power equals 8? Right? 2 to the x power equals 8. How do you solve for that? Right? You know that 2 cubed, like 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Right? So you ask yourself, how do I solve for 2 to the 8th power? 2 to the x power equals 8. And the way how you do that, and this is why you have a calculator out, is you take the logarithm, you take the logarithm of 8, see, log 8, and you divide it by log 2, right? And that equals 3, okay? So what that tells you is that if you want to figure out how many times you need to double something in order to make it 8 times as much as you put in, right? So if you have $20 and you double it 3 times, how many times can you double $20 to make it $80, right? And you'd only have to double it 3 times, right? Now you don't want to you don't reasonably expect to double something, but you can reasonably expect to gain 1%. So what's 1%? 1% is 1.01. Okay? So then the question becomes, whatever it is that whatever number you want to start off with, how many times do you need to increase it by 1%, right? In order for it to be, let's say, 50 times whatever it is that you have, right? And I'm going to say 50 times because that's what I'm interested in. But it doesn't have to be, like, it doesn't have to be 50, it doesn't have to be sort of, like, I'll give you an example, right? $1 million, right, is 50 times as much as $20,000, okay? So let's say you put in $20,000 and you want to get it to be $1 million. How many times do you have to increase it by 1% in order for it to be $1 million, right? So of course you would do log 50, right, divided by the logarithm of 1.01, okay? So you take the logarithm of 1.01, and then you divide that, and that equals 393. So what that tells you is this, that within a year, right, or if 400 times you increase your 20,000, right, by what was it, 1%, you can make $1 million. All right, that's it. And the thing is this, that this 1% growth, this 1% gain, is very possible for anybody. You understand? Because, like, if you see in the fluctuations in the market now, of course, like I said, you want to be able to use these stochastics. You want to be able to so on and so forth. If you say to yourself, at least every day, I want to increase my, my side investment, right, by 1%, right? You can you'll get whatever number you're looking for. And you might say to yourself, well, yeah, that's if I had $20,000 to burn, right? Now, if you had, here's the key that you might be missing, and that is logarithm of 2 divided by the logarithm of 1.01, right, equals 69. So that means that, obviously a lot of you like that number, but but what I'm saying is that 69 is basically, or even 60 or 70, right? Basically in 70 days you could double whatever you put in. Okay, at a 1% gain. Now, you're not always going to get a 1% gain. You might get a 2% gain. You might get a 3% gain, right? If you're reading the trends clearly, you might get those sort of gains. But the point being that even at a quote-unquote minimum, because sometimes you might even get a negative. I don't know, right? But even at a quote-unquote minimum, if you do that once a day, right, 1% at minimum, you can in 2 months double whatever you put in. right? So that and this is the thing too. It's like every 69 days is a doubling. You understand? Every 69 days is a doubling. So even if you say, look, I don't have $1 million, I got $10, right? For some reason, you only have $10. So then what you do is you find out how much $10 is to a million, right? So this is a million. Obviously, you already know what it's going to be. It's going to be 100,000. So you say 100,000. How much is 100,000, right? So you just take the logarithm of 100,000, which is 5, and you divide it by 1.01, the logarithm of 1.01, and then you get 1,000, so on and so forth. So it says in 10 days, right? If you were to only start off with $10 for some reason, you just said, look, I only got $10 to become rich, right? Now you take this 1,157 and you divide it by 365, right? Now of course this will assume that you don't pay any charges, for trading, which you probably will have to. So I mean, I wouldn't start off with just $10. But the point being that even if you did start off with $10 and you were getting a 1% gain on $10, right? It would take you 3 years to get $1 million on a 1% gain. And of course you could obviously get more than 1% any day, and obviously I wouldn't start off with just $10. But the point remains that even on $10 with a 1% gain, if you have the focus and the discipline to get, if you have the focus and the discipline to get a 1% gain every day, it would take you 3 years to have $1 million on $10. You understand? And that's really, and the gist of it, the secret to personal wealth. Now the question becomes, what are you going to do with $1 million? You probably don't have much to do with $1 million. I mean, you could live, comfortably, you could buy whatever you want, but then whether that's going to become real wealth eventually, is a whole other thing. Now, obviously, you can speculate $1 million over 70 days and get $2 million, and so on and so forth. Of course, eventually when you start making some big money, whatever government you're under is gonna start looking at taking a piece of that pie, But I say all this to, that's why I would even recommend that if you had $1 million, you would get the shares in whatever that you think is going to eventually be worth more. Like I said, if Bitcoin is going to shoot up to 150,000, who knows? But if it does, and you basically will multiply by 9, and then you would have that. That's where I would slow down. Because like I said, when you pull it out to put it in your bank account, your government's going to probably tax you over that. They say that's that's something that's a taxable income. But my point being that yes, that incremental growth can in fact foster that kind of thing. And this is something that's generally speaking. So I think there was something else I wanted to say. Oh yeah. So here's the other thing. So like you probably found through the Discord, it was the conversation was on, well, can every black person get this, or is there a class? Is there something holding us down as a black people? And it's like, absolutely, because at the end of the day, this is, you have to risk your money. You have to risk your investment. You have to risk your investment in the sense of, you have to risk, like if it's just $10 you're putting in, you have to risk that $10. It's your personal risk, and it's no guarantee that you're going to get that 1%. You might go down, 10% one day, and that sets you back 10 days. So you have to have that discipline, or it sets you back more than 10 days, because, like I said, because the way how the compounding works is that it works kind of worse in the back, like it works in the background worse for you. You know what I mean? Like 0.9%, like that decrease sets you back. So it's not to say that it's guaranteed that thing. So you have to have discipline. You have to risk your own wealth, and this is why. And it's like the no risk, no reward. So when the comment, for instance, was that, oh, black people have more financial literacy, it's like, this is not financial literacy. This is speculation. This is putting it all on the table, risking. This is risk. You know, you have to take that risk. You have to have that income on the side that you're willing to lose. You know what I mean? That you're willing to lose, and you have to be on it, because these kind of 1% fluctuations, like the meters and the metrics that you have to read, right, or that you should read, are a lot of times false flags, false indications. Like, for instance, someone recommended me this app where they have stochastics and all that kind of stuff, and they keep telling me, hey, here's the time to buy, here's the time to sell, and every time they tell me to buy, it's more expensive than when they tell me to sell. You know what I mean? Like, they're giving me, it's a bunch of false readings, because apparently it's not good in the trending market, it's not good, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that you would have to look into, and the reality is that most black people aren't looking into this stuff. Most people aren't looking into this stuff. Most black or white people aren't looking into this stuff. By the way, if you're listening and you like this, just drop a like, and obviously share and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why, so it's like, you can say, hey, you know what, the system is biased against you. The reality is that if people put you in a track, they're not putting you on a track for incremental growth. They're putting you on a track for stable, like just for regular pay. You know what I'm saying? Like just consistent, like no growth. They're putting you on a zero growth scheme. If you're on a zero growth scheme, no, you will not have wealth. No, you will not have riches unless you have a pretty good income, right? But even if you have a pretty good income, unless you really save your money, it's actually probably impractical that you will have wealth, unless it's just a really, really good income. Like if you're making so many figures, sure. You know, but the other thing that you would want to do then is, if you have this kind of money, if you have like $1 million saved up, then you want to then engage in sort of another risky enterprise. You know, another risky enterprise, and that's why it comes back to no risk, no reward. And so here's the thing with these wazungu, if you will, like a lot of the ones who are rich did engage in these risky enterprises, and it probably wasn't that big of a risk, because, you know, it's like, if, like I said, if you have money laying around, or if you have the $10 to put into the market, then it's not really a risk, because you're like, okay, yeah, it's $10. Or and to people with more money, they might be like, yeah, I got 20,000. You know, yeah, I got 100,000 I could put in. You know, I could take that risk. I could stand to lose it. You know, and a lot of them do lose it. Okay, a lot of people do lose that money that they say that they can lose. So I want you to get that too, that it's not a guarantee, but if you do apply it, then certainly you can get it. Now, obviously, this is a little bit, I mean, if you don't know who I am, you might be like, oh, that was a good lecture. But that's not really what I do. I just thought it was something interesting that I saw. You know, it was a large conversation on whether or not, you know, like black people are impeded from wealth, and of course, you know, the case is that black people are on a zero development track. So, and you know, of course, nobody is responsible for putting you on a non-zero development. You know, nobody's responsible for putting you on a gain but yourself. So the idea that yes, that black people collectively aren't going to gain from financial literacy, or not collectively going to gain from speculation, that's true, because no one's gonna be risking themselves for your wealth. That doesn't even make any, like, if they do that, they're just good people, you know, who probably have a lot of wealth to spare. You know what I mean? They're just good people. But there's like the amount of good people with wealth to spare is kind of limited. You know, if you want to be a good person with wealth to spare, obviously, well, one thing is obviously you get my book. This is not a book on financial stuff, so I'm not gonna fool you. This is a book on Black Power. So I mean, you know, you could probably get it for somebody else if you believe that they want to have a book on Black Power. But otherwise, like, that's the whole thing. I would advise that you look into the speculation. Look up the word that I put in the message, stochastics. I heard it's not even the best chart. It's like they say that it's not a good chart to follow. But you'll figure that out when you listen to other people and you read other people. You know, there's other kind of diagrams. There's other kind of stuff. You know, you try to get yourself literate in that. You try to see if you can read the market and the market charts and read how a 1% gain, at least a 1% gain, could follow, and then you say to yourself, how much money am I willing to put down? And then you just do the logarithm, and you say, look, if I'm just going to put down $10, right, I can multiply it by 100,000 in 3 years if I keep doing things. Now, I wouldn't advise just $10, right, because you kind of want real gain. But, and obviously I don't know if you could even go that low. But you know, if you say to yourself, look, I got $1,000, I want to multiply it by 10,000, and of course, look, the reality is this too, that, well, I mean, eventually there's a market cap, I think. So technically, you wouldn't be able to just get your $1 million and then multiply it to a billion or a trillion. I don't know. I don't think you can. It would take a large amount of, you know, take a lot of, you know. But like for the little money that you, well, not you per se, but you know, a lot of our people may have just a little bit of money saved up, so they can. It's a practical thing to do to get yourself that kind of money. Particularly, like I said, if you're engaging in different currencies, different cryptocurrencies, different foreign currencies, different stocks, so on and so forth. Now, is there an ethical thing to stocks? Absolutely. Is there an ethical thing to other stuff? Absolutely. You know, so you consider that on your own, but my whole thing was just to show you that mathematics, the logarithms, and I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully, you know, you can leave a comment and all that kind of stuff. And otherwise, you know, just check out this book I have, The Book of Power. It's a really excellent book, particularly for, you know, people interested in African liberation and that kind of stuff. And, you know, working together. And also, don't forget that I have this Keruwa Ankopia organization. I want you to join that, be a part of that. That would be a really brilliant thing, and that's the way that we can get together and you know, if we do build this, when we develop this wealth that we can develop, we can put it towards these African projects, and that would be where the real wealth is. Okay. Brother says, what's the African stock market like? And you know, that's like I was mostly talking about if you want to have 1% gains, you know, so you can get 1% gains on any market as long as it's fluctuating, as long as you can read the diagrams. Although some people would recommend that you can't necessarily read the diagrams on certain currencies, on certain markets, and so on and so forth. But really, I would say, you know, like you would like this would be more so if you wanted personal wealth. If you want to engage in, like, let's say the stock market per se, particularly for like the national, for investing in a nation, you probably wouldn't be doing these small time trades in the sense of, you know, you would actually be investing in that location. And if you're investing in that location, you probably want to keep your money in there, as long as, and you'd have to look into what pays dividends, if you even want dividends, and what you actually believe in, because what these corporations do with the money that you invest in them is that they are able to provide more services and those kind of things. And of course, as the value of their stock goes up, the value of your portfolio goes up. But if you just pull it out, then you're no longer investing in that country. So you're not going to get necessarily that, or you're no longer investing in that stock, in that corporation. So you're not necessarily going to get that 1% gain if you just invest. But that's another thing that you can do. If you have this $1 million or whatever, then you can get, you know, $1 million worth of shares in this market. But then, of course, you're now vulnerable to if that market actually succeeds. So you'd want to look into, or in that, if that corporation or that whatever actually succeeds. And of course, if it doesn't, then your $1 million fades away. But if it does, then, you know, your $1 million becomes, you know how many more. And of course, that's another thing too. If you own a lot of stock in certain corporations, you suddenly become a CEO. I mean, you don't become a CEO. Sorry, you're on the board of, I think the board of directors or something, right? And then, I mean, like basically, you get a vote in the corporation, right? And you can kind of affect who the CEO would be. And of course, that right there, like I'm glad the brother even pointed that out. That right there is another way to, you know, that we can, as an organization, advance our people, because now we could make it so that the CEO is learned and studied in Pan-Africanism, Pan-African Nationalism, you know, or the Pan-African Wisdom series, like I was saying, you know, because if you own the board of or if you have a large vote in the board of directors, in a sense, or you can impact the election of the CEO, or even impact the election of anything of that nature. So, and impact the direction of the business, and therefore, what the CEO does, among other things, is obviously they appeal for money from outside, but basically do negotiations. And what country should they invest in? What country should they go in? What country should they do business in? Like, let's say you're an internet company, you have a CEO, and the CEO might say, okay, one CEO might be biased towards Rwanda, another CEO might be biased towards Tanzania. The reality is that, and then of course that's all by individual. So the individual kind of goes about, and the people who own the stock will go about and do that. So that's really like if you were looking to. Like, after you have that personal wealth, I would say that's when you'd want to invest in particular businesses to impact even the CEO level, because you'll have a larger vote, you can get dividends, all that kind of stuff, and you can kind of leave your money alone. But I personally would like to use my, like, if I have wealth, I would like to buy like businesses and buy centers and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that everybody can do, but that's something also, like I said, you'd want to communicate on a level, like you'd want to. I would first say get the 1% gains if you can, or first try to study the markets that you might be interested in, whether it be forex, whatever, blah blah blah. Try to see the videos you got, the books you got, whatever it is, try to figure out what you can do. See if you can read the market reasonably to the point where you can get 1% gains, because sometimes you could read it and get 10% gains. Sometimes you could get 20% gains. Even this little thing that I was doing with BTC, I got 50% gains. Some people got 100% gain. And of course, if you get 100% gain enough times, that's when you double, right? If you get that, like I said, if you get 100% gain twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, let's say 4 times, then you go from 2 to 16. You know what I mean? So you get a whole more than 10 times whatever you invested. So if I and that's, again, like I said, you have to take that own risk on your own. Having a stock market economy is okay, but not the best way forward. Stock market economy. Well, I mean, again, this is more so if you're just trading short term. So Achieve Mindset asked if you're having a stock market economy is okay, but not the best way forward. Stock market, like, that's something that we just have to, like, that stock market is just saying, how can a business open itself to outside money so that it can afford more things, So, like, let's say, like I said, it's an internet company, right? Let's say you want to expand, like you're an internet company, you want to give internet to Rwanda, right? How do you, or like to a city in Rwanda? It's going to cost you, let's say $1 million, okay? But you only have $10,000. So what you do is then you open up your business and you say, hey, we're going to sell out these stocks, pieces of our business for, $10 a share, right? And we're going to sell, let's say 100,000 shares, right? And then people buy up these 100,000 shares, right? You then get $1 million. Or let's say you decide for 20, you get $1 million. You already have 1 million shares. You already have 100,000 shares yourself, and you give out 100,000 shares. So basically, now people buy up these stocks. Then they're able to. They basically just give you $1 million, but they now have a piece of your business. And then with that $1 million, you can then go to Rwanda and put in the the Rwandan city, put in the internet and whatever, and then hopefully you're able to well, you personally might want to buy back some of your stocks, but it also might just be that, oh, now your stock increases to $20 and so on and so forth. But here's the thing, is that you don't really get those $20 unless you somehow buy back your stock or whatever. But like, you don't really get the value of the stock as it increases, but now people have part of your business, and it's like a publicly owned business in a sense. So it's not necessarily, it's not whether it's a good it's not whether it's a okay way forward or not. It's more so, does a business want other people to have a say in it, one, or two, whether it needs that kind of infusion of cash, which is something that you know, it's just a decision on the part of a business. The post-war Japanese achieved mindset says the post-war Japanese economy is a better way for Africa to go. You'd have to explain what that means. The post-war economy. This is more so if you wanted personal wealth, you know, because you have to realize that if you, like I said again, if you're following somebody else's program, most people do not give you incremental growth. They don't give you any kind of growth. I mean, they might obviously say, hey, you can get a little bit more income. Like, you know, we'll give you $1, you know, $1 extra per hour, which is going to be decent, you know. Obviously, you know, it's like $80 more, you know, whatever, every week or whatever. Oh, sorry, every day. But wait, sorry, I might be messing up. But $1 more is like, yeah, every like $8 more every paycheck. Okay, so if you work like a 40-hour week, right? But they're gonna stop it eventually. This right here, incremental growth, you know, compounding 1%, isn't really capped, except for that eventually you might outgrow the market. You know, bull run. Yeah, bull run. Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like if you can predict that, and again, that's why I would use this stochastics thing that I said before, right? You'd want to be able to read the charts. So there's a need for financial education in Africa and among African people. So that's a question, achieve mindset actions. So there is a need for financial education in Africa. And again, you know, you're not going to get this on a massive scale. The reality is that most people who go into, like, as many people that win from the market lose from the market. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to be the winner yourself. You probably can't expect more than like a lot of times what you're gonna like it really comes down to your discipline. You know what I mean? Like in the Pro Black Compendium, I talk about the different attributes of an individual. You know, it's kind of like it's kind of like a video game terminology, but still, it's like, you know, you have strength, agility, charm, physique. You know, those are like the physical things that you can work on, and then the mental things that you can work on are your intelligence, your wisdom, your charm, and your discipline. You know, and it's like it really comes down to your discipline. Can you, you know, get your 1% and go? Can you take your 5% loss and keep going? You know, can you like it's really down to your individual discipline. You know, if you understand like how the math is laid out, right? In 69 days or in 69 1% iterations, 1% increases, you will get you will multiply by 2. You know, whatever it is you put in. So you put, you know, but of course, you know, some people rather, no, I'm not going to touch that kind of stuff. Like I was advised, you know, don't touch whatever money you put into Bitcoin. If it goes up, if it goes down, just leave it alone. It's eventually going to be really high. You understand? It might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, but eventually, so that's another type of discipline, in a sense. To multiply whatever you put in by so on and so forth. But what I'm saying is that if you go 1%, 1%, 1%, 1% every day, in a year, you multiply by 50. Okay? Achieve Mindset says, I think a lot of small companies cannot explode due to a lack of funds. Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason why you'd engage in the stock market. But the thing is that it comes at a cost in the sense that now you're a publicly owned corporation, and essentially you're giving away parts of your business. But that could be good for us, like how Bit of Medicine put out the African stock market, in the sense of now you know the business, like for instance, if this little business in let's say Tanzania, right? If this little business in Gambia now opens itself up to outside investment, we could be those outside investment, right? And if we stick around in those corporations, now suddenly we have votes, and we have an ability to influence how they go about with their business. And if we have that business acumen, or we could even select the CEO with that kind of business acumen, or recommend the CEO with that kind of business acumen. And when you recommend that business acumen can then make a world of difference, not only for our investment, but also for our continent. You know, because we could say, oh, well, you know, we want a CEO who provides, you know, free, you know, classes to the masses. You know, it's going to cost the business right? But we feel like it might have some sort of, advertising benefit, or we might, be able to vote down like negative ads, the ads that like, oh, have white folk in it, or ads that have bleaching and all that kind of stuff, and have, actors and actresses. Like, we'll have greater influence, and not just that, we can also start our own businesses. And open it up to that kind of stuff. So, but again, this kind of incremental growth is not the same as business, and that business is more so like real wealth, because $1 million is not real wealth, it's good to have, but it's not real wealth in the sense of, but that real wealth would be if we actually started our own businesses in our own, or just had our own nations and so on and so forth. But hopefully that's a interesting little conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. I just wanted to just shoot on. I did the worship earlier. It was really short, and I know some people might have wanted to hear a little more of me. But I hope you guys appreciated that. If there's any other questions, let me know before I go. Okay, so Achieve Mindset says, yes, what I might is that there's a large number of African people investing in African companies in Africa and diaspora, enable many African companies to grow. Yeah, if there is a large number of African people investing, exactly. Like that's, well, not just that. I mean, the thing is this too. Like I said, it comes at a loss, because you could have a bad CEO, you could have a bad CEO. You could have a business that's not necessarily going to flare up. You could have a business that missed this opportunity. Like if you're saying, like if you're a business that like specializes in decorating typewriters, you might have missed your opportunity. Might have been good 100 years ago, but it's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of dumb now. You know what I mean? But you could also have a business that's like, hey, we can, like they're the latest in mobile apps. But then of course that might even fade away. So you have to be on the right time. So he says, I understand now what you're saying. The Japanese economy topic is a bit off topic for today. Well, I don't really know the Japanese economy, or what you mean by the Japanese economy. Japanese, I feel like, but yeah, I mean like generally speaking, if you have individuals who are being creative and doing good things in that country for their people, then like chances are that it's gonna be good. So and of course, if you have the finances already. So if we support those creative minds that are doing good things for our people, but also like have an eye for growth, right? Then that's all good. Like for instance, you see this book that I have, right? If I sell, like it doesn't matter how much a book like how much money you profit off a book. Like if you could sell something for a profit of $1 and you sell it 1,000,000 times, you get $1 million. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, even if you reduced it to a low profit. Now, of course, with my book, obviously, I don't expect 1,000,000 people to read it because it's whatever. But even if you were to have an individual, like whatever it is that you're selling, if you have a profit of $1,000,000, if you have a profit of $1 and you sell it to 1,000,000 people, you'll get $1 million. Well, if you have a profit of $1, yeah. So he says, I wanted to ask, have you heard about the military law verdict that the military should use commercial software if it's available instead of building one in-house? I don't know what country you're talking about. It depends on what country you're talking about. But Achieve Mindset, that's what Achieve Mindset has. He says, have you heard of the military? Because remember, all the laws are local to their countries and their jurisdiction. There's no. I mean, there's universal law, but there's no, like, you don't just like I don't think you're talking about universal law. I think you're talking about a law written by some sort of legislature, and that would just be particular to whatever country you're talking about. This is something that obviously I feel like, I don't know if you're talking about Japan still, but in America, like Boeing, like the people who make the American military, like the American aircraft, American whatever, they are in fact commercial businesses. So but that's what I'm saying. Like if you want like real wealth, you would engage in that kind of stuff, because what we have to understand about governments is that governments also what governments do is that they buy contracts. So like even the food that like let's say they have a meeting and they have food that they're eating at the meeting. they pay for that food. They pay somebody outside of them to get that food. So they could even have a contract that requires them to pay so much money. And of course, a lot of people overcharge them, or whatever. Like, for instance, just the other day, I was at this Haitian restaurant, and they were like, hey, we'll give you, we'll there was a quote-unquote holiday in America. It's called Thanksgiving or whatever. And they were like, they would charge you $250, for a Thanksgiving feast. Now I'm not gonna buy I don't even celebrate the thing. But some like you can set it up such that a business, like I said, the Black Caucus could be like, we're gonna have a holiday feast, and you deliver this. No, and we want this thing. It's $250, and maybe it's $50 extra for the fee for the delivery. That's fine by us, and so we kind of guarantee that contract to this black business, or they even say we want two of them, So it's like that's like the real life that governments do participate in the commercial economy. And that's why you want to promote. That's why you want to have access to government, and that's why a lot of quote unquote people would be like black people would be Democrats in the sense of in America, in the sense of what they get then is they get access to these kind of government contracts. Because even like the people who build the roads are like commercial enterprises, not like in-house in a sense. So the military, yes, the military uses Boeing, like American military uses Boeing, so on and so forth. So you said this is regarding AI technology. Palantir may get a lot of contracts from this. Exactly. So, and that's the thing too. It's like, now Palantir might say, hey, we're going to open up ourselves to stocks and so on and so forth, and then you can then, if you choose to invest. But it's the same with regards to like an African stock market. You might have Africans who want to do AI and so on and so forth. And they're a small business and they want access to more wealth. They open up, and then you could pay for that access and then have that kind of thing. They'll give you the board, blah 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 blah. They'll ask you for your opinion because they like the fact that you have your money in them and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to consider when you talk about stocks and that kind of stuff. But mainly, if you're talking about incremental growth for personal wealth, you could just look at this 1% increase. If you're talking about investing in people, like me personally, I want to avoid like legit investing into white people. You know what I mean? But also I'm not gonna necessarily hold it against people because I understand that if they're looking for money, if they're looking for wealth, that is a way to get that money, get that wealth. I don't but I would prefer to do the African. Like if I'm going to invest in thing, I'll either be African or create my own businesses. You know what I mean? Because like I said, if you start off, if all of us come together, like if all of us take a year to get $1 million, then we can put together we can put together half of it. We can say here it's $500,000 in a pot, right? And let's say it's 10 of us, right? Then we have $5 million, that we can then get an inventory, get a building, get a space, get a, what I'm saying? And that right there is called a business. You know what I mean? That right there is called a business. And it doesn't have to, underpay anybody, doesn't have to exploit people. But that's another thing I want to just discuss quickly is that this idea of, the worker is not getting paid what they're due. And it's like, again, it comes to the, who is taking the risk, and who's signing the contract. If you sign a contract that says, like if you sign a contract with me that says you get $20, right? You get $20 for the day, right? It doesn't matter if you feel like you somehow earned $1 million that day. You know what I mean? Like you signed a contract for $20, and that's really like what it comes down to. Now, obviously, you would want a bonus, you would expect a bonus. That makes sense. I don't hold it against you, but again, what if this business, what if the business itself, costs $10 million to make? Like, did you put up $10 million? Those are kind of questions that, at least for other people, it's really like a concern, like it's really a question to ask. But I think I might be talking too much, and I know that nobody's asking any other questions. So that's it. Hopefully this was beneficial for you. I hope that you enjoyed it. It's fun. I like that. I like this engagement. and hopefully we can do this another time. And obviously, check out this book that I got. Check out the books I have. They're books on building power. Particularly like when you have that wealth. Well, not when you have that wealth, but particularly if we're talking about, you know, uh, getting real power. You know, because like I said, the government gets that contract. The government already has that wealth. Because another way. I mean, obviously, another way to do it is to collect taxes off other people. And the governments collect taxes off other people. With those taxes, they then engage the commercial world, and so you could be a part of both of that. Well, it's some people consider it unethical to be a part of both of that, but if you're not personally a part of both of that, people in your group can be a part, and that's what a lot of quote unquote corruption as we see, but it's not necessarily corruption as much as you have to have people on the same political level, because you don't really want to fund your enemies, with few exceptions. But anyway, thank you so much for listening, and of course, as always, I appreciate your patronage and your ear. All right, Shem Hotep, Nita Yetu.